I'm on a mission to find myself. Lately I'm off it, coughing. These meds I take gon' put me in a coffin. More often than not, I'm distraught, all alone in my room with the lights out. Even when it's nice out, I'm lazy. Really wish you see me on the daily. Lately I've been feeling crazy, baby. I don't wanna talk. I can tell she faking. She only hit me at 1 o'clock. My brain she's staying like sidewalk chalk. Everywhere I look, always see her chemicals. Think she got me hooked. I feel it in my genitals. Read me like a book and play me like a cassette tape. Why wait when you with me? Pigs fly great by day. Better get here by the by day. Irate the way that I be feeling. I've been irate. Why wait? Lately I've been feeling crazy. I'm not that much to see, so why everybody tryna look at me? Oh, it's getting hard to breathe, so I'ma take a minute and focus on me. This is a solo, wish it was a duo. Lingo, bingo, way that I be falling down, plinko. I just put a sock on my mic, that's a spit fill. When I'm still up in the night, that's when I spit real. Walking around my town and I can't help but look. I see you all around, every time it got me shook. When you walk by, I was too high, couldn't say hi. Now you moving to the next guy, I'm on the next high. Everywhere I look, all I see are chemicals. Think she got me hooked, I feel it in my genitals. Read me like a book.
I'm the storm that meets the moon. I'm the sun that will not move. Do you think you are? Who do you think you
Welcome everybody to RSCast, where we recap everything that happened in RSC in the last week and looking to everything that will happen in next week. I'm Tavish, I'm gonna be your host tonight, and obviously I have the two legends with me, Kingsman Gas and Buddha, who are here every week with all the knowledge, so I don't have to do actually any research. And Buddha, Kingsman, how are you guys doing?
I'm doing great. Just woke up a few hours ago. You thought I was going to say minutes. I got you there.
That's what I expect.
Now I'm good, ready to go. Look forward to see what's to come, see what's been happening within the league across all these tiers, and of course the juicy stuff that we get to. Obviously some like clips and obviously all the awards. So it's good stuff. But Kingsman, you're looking risen from the dead, nice and awake. You're ready to go.
Risen from the dead. Wait, I looked dead before. That's should I be worried?
Of course. On the field you do.
Yeah, that's true. Actually,
Ooh,
yeah. But also, we do have Premier this week. The first week we can recap Prem and see which teams are pushing forward at the top. But once again, we are moving further into league play. Week 3 is over now. That's a third of the week's done. So we really get to see teams establish themselves now.
Yeah, you said it there perfectly. Week 3 is done. We're moving into week 4 here. And like I said, Premier has also started. So more results for us to recap. And with that, let's start at the bottom here at RSC. Let's start with Prospect first. We have Glacier Ignis Conference. And Kingsman, I'm going to give it to you first.
Well, there were a lot of draws. 8 of the 10 teams had at least one draw this week. The only two not getting a draw would be Serene Taisho, who won both their games, and Tomfoolery, who got a win and a loss, obviously picking up one of their losses to Serene Taisho, but they did not manage to find a draw across that. Serene Taisho were the only team to get a double win, beating Tomfoolery 3-1 and beating Hot Metal 3-1. Two teams who were looking to push towards the top of the table last week, but they've been shut down immediately. But 2 4-0s from Tomfoolery allows them to go, not 2 4-0s from Tomfoolery, 1 4-0 for Tomfoolery allows them to go positive at 5-3, and a 4-0 from Alta onto Primordial allows them going 6-2, matching them as the best record this week, tied along with Serene Taisho, but everything looking very tied up here.
Yeah, you said it there, really perfect. Definitely Team Serene having a very solid week here in Prospect. But now let's take a look at the Ignis Conference. Buddha, what happened there?
Well, as you can see, we only see one sweep and out to the side of Newborn onto Livens. And we only see one draw as well, Anubis onto Newborn. Newborn with both of the unique results, either with or against them. But other than that, it's just 3-1s across the board. We had Debaters with a 6-2 week. We don't see a 7-1 or an 8-0, but they do get 2 decent results for themselves. They got a 3-1 victory onto Dwarfs, and then the other victory was onto Cardinals with a 3-1 as well. So for them, it's another consistent week for them. And talk about consistency and going positive, you got to look at Obscurity as well. In the week before, we talked about matchups to look out for, and Obscurity and Tartarus were one of those matchups to definitely keep an eye on. And well, what did Obscurity do? They won it, they took a 3-1, and then following that, they also got a victory onto Dwarfs as well, which also results them in a 2-6 week. But Obscurity and Debaters, both of the top dogs going into this week, going positive and remaining their dominance. And as I mentioned earlier, only one draw and 1-4-0.
Yeah, and that's definitely if you compare the two conferences here. And Ignis only having one draw, Glaciers having 4 draws in total with 2 sweeps. So definitely a bit of difference here. But with that, let's take a look at the standings, and we're gonna start with Glaciers first. Kingsman, what happened here?
Well, with Serene Taisho picking up that double win week, staying the only team to be unbeaten in the Glaciers conference, they will go up to first, and Palmis will climb with them into second on 15. Tomfoolery, though they drop down on 14, they do go positive, but losing to Serene Taisho really would hit hard. And Caro also dropped down to fourth on 13, tied with Terror on 13. I believe Terror picked up a draw and a loss as well, so not a bad week for them as Hot Metal move up into that last play-in spot on 12, but they are tied with Alter, who have come off a very good week in a win and a draw. One of them being a sweep, I believe, and a draw. So them going 6-2, massive for them. As obviously I said, Alter Primordial was a big game down the bottom of the table, and they got a 4-0 sweep there. But Fearless Echo, they do lose out. They do go down to 8th place on 10 wins. And Primordial, they move up out of the bottom spot, only to be tied with Limousine on 7 wins at the bottom, a staggering 5 wins away from the top 6.
Yeah, definitely. We already talked about it before. It's Team Serene having a very strong run here in prospect with Serene Taisho having those perfect wins, moving up to first place. But now let's take a look at the Ignis standings, as there, I think, also a lot of movement here.
Yeah, well, I talked about the 2 top dogs, and that's exactly where they are. Both teams 5-1-0. Debaters in first with 19, and Obscurity in second with 18. Very close between them. The only thing really separating them apart would be that goal difference. But in third place, you are going to see Propel. They got 1 win of a series this week, so they'll stay in that third place with 16 points for themselves. And with Obscurity's victory, it has put Tartarus a little bit of a gap behind in fourth place on 13. We see Newborn in 5th with 11, and Dwarfs in that 6th spot. Despite going 2-6, they hold that gatekeeping spot for play-ins, going 10-14. Mosaic will be in 7th with 10, also Anubis with 10. So Dwarfs really got to bounce back. That got maybe think themselves lucky that they had a lead after that week. But Cardinals in 9th with 8, and then down at the bottom will be Livens with 5 for themselves. But for those bottom 2 teams, still very possible for them to kind of get in that mix with Dwarfs, Mosaic, and Anubis.
Yeah, a lot of movement here in the Ignis conference, but Jabate is still at the top. And now let's take a look at the fixtures for next week. Kingsman, what matches did you pick in the Glaciers conference?
Well, there's not much near the top. Obviously, I saw Serene Taisho versus Terror. Terror on a bit of a bad run. They won their last 3, but they found a draw and a loss this week, unable to find a win. But down towards the bottom of the table, I think Fearless Echo have a big week, playing Limousine at the bottom, yet to find their first win. And Alter, who are finding a bit of form going into this, so that'll be pretty interesting. And you got third versus second in Tomfoolery Palmists, which will really set the gap for which teams are your high-performing teams, which is your team that's going to challenge Serene Taisho here, because on paper, they've still got a very tough week, and Caro sat in 4th, and Terror sat in 5th. So, realistically, for the top 3 teams, it's a week to establish yourself as those in that top 3 fight. Obviously, you see Glaciers last season was an absolute runaway in the top 3, and the week for the bottom teams, really push away from the bottom.
Yeah, a lot of interesting matchups going there, like you said, for the top 3, definitely. But now, on the side of the Ignis Conference, Buddha, what matchups are very interesting to look forward to here in the next week?
Well, you've got the biggest matchup of them all. You've got Jabatus going up against Obscurity. Probably the biggest match here in the Ignis Conference. Obviously, both sides, as mentioned earlier, they both have 5 wins. Both have 1 draw, no losses to the record. So we could potentially see a team have their first loss of the season, or maybe we just see a draw, or maybe we see something miraculous of a sweep. You never know in RSC. But that's going to be a massive game to watch, especially for these teams trying to play catch-up. You got Propel in third. They have a big game on their hands as well. They play Obscurity themselves, and they're 2 games behind. So Propel could make something happen, but they will also play the sides of Dwarfs, and for Dwarfs that's definitely a big game for them. Also, going 2-6, any game is going to be a bounce back for them. They play Newborn, who are 1 game ahead of them, and then Propel, who are 6 games ahead of them. But if they can get a result there, then you just know that there's the possibility is positive. You know that you're worth to climb that table. You know you're worthy of that play-ins or maybe pushing for playoffs. So it's definitely going to be a big week for Dwarfs. And also down the lower end of the table, I can't lie, Thomas. You got a feel for Livens here. They got to play Jabatus. It's definitely going to be a very, very difficult matchup. If they could take any games there, that's going to probably be. They'll probably be happy with it. But hey, you never know what can happen. Anything can happen on the given day. It all depends how the players will show up. And also you got Cardinals. They're down there as well with Livens. So that's going to be a good matchup for those 2 teams. Maybe Cardinals can create that gap down the bottom end, or maybe Livens can, really make it interesting and find their first victory.
Yeah, and on a personal note, I definitely hope Livens can get their first win here against Cardinals. I don't see them doing it against Jabatus. But that was Prospect. Let's move on to Challenger. Let's recap what happened in the previous week, and we start with Glaciers Conference first. Kingsman, I'm going to throw it to you.
Well, same scenario. There was only 1 team to pick up that 2 wins. It's that 1 team that have been absolutely on a tear. It's Disorder. They go 7-1 this week on a very impressive week. As the other teams that swept did not go 7-1, so they find themselves best again. But very good showing from Apprentices as well, who were able to get a 6-2 week, sweeping Serene Yamato and getting a 2-2 onto Neptunium. And honourable mention from a team that's been sat near the bottom, well, basically all season long, is Fearless Delta. They find themselves going 5-3. They get a 3-1 onto Gelvi, sending them 1-7 in a week they really wish had not happened. And then getting a 2-2 onto Oracles, who I believe were near the bottom as well. So they both find their first draw of the season. But overall, good results at the top. And well, Fearless Delta will be very happy with their week.
Yeah, and I don't think Fearless Delta is the only happy people. I think Buddha here is also happy that his team is slowly catching up to the rest. But Buddha, talking about you, what happened in the Ignis Conference?
Well. We see 2 sweeps on the board. You got Elves with a 4-0 sweep, and also Impulse with a 4-0 sweep of their own. But the teams that I've picked out, the first one is going to be Eclipse. They played the sides of Elves and Feather. I say a 3-1 victory onto Elves. That's just one of your matchups. Like, okay, any team can take it, but it was Eclipse to edge that one out. But a 3-1 victory onto Feather, definitely a huge result for them. I could be wrong, but I think they might have played subs. I know there might have been a talk about it. It could have been the wrong series. I could have misinfoed that. But either way, on paper for them, that's a big result for Eclipse. Definitely, makes things tighter and closer for the standings, which, I'm not going to spoil just yet. There's the confirmation. They played with an FA and sub, so, you're not really going to see the true potential until their next matchup for Eclipse. They're going to take it. They're not going to say, no, let's replay or anything. They're going to take the result. But Eclipse goes 6-2. Another team that it's great to pick out. We're not picking out one of those top table teams. Crusaders. Going into this week, they didn't have a win and they didn't have a draw. It was 4 losses on the board, but they found 2 victories in this week. They got a 3-1 victory onto. I got to do it again. All right, we'll give it a go.
Alpol.
No, that's the other one. Wait, is this the Cowpole one? Oh, I've forgotten now.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah,
Cowpole. Oh, easy. 3-1 victory up the Cowpole. There we go. See, my brain's boggled. That's how you know I didn't get sleep. I didn't even remember my own Cowpole team. Anyway, 3-1 victory onto them, but they also followed through with another victory with a 3-1 onto Canaans as well. No 4-0s, but for Crusaders, definitely a huge week for them.
Yeah, I definitely love how no one of us can actually pronounce the Azteca franchise team names, but I do think it's Capecli. But like you said, Crusaders finally getting the wins there. And now let's take a look at the standings. Kingsman, how does the Glacier standings look?
Well, I'm just reading chat, and the pronunciation is C-Pactly. So there you go, C-Pactly. So something like that.
Oh, wow.
Or as Buddha's typed Cowpole. But look at that. This 0-0 on 22 wins. They look unstoppable. It's true. But Apprentices, any other tier, they are top with 19 wins. And there's, oh my god, there is a 9-win gap between third and first. 2 series. The Disorder go 0-8 and Mischief go 8-0. They still can't catch up. Ridiculous. And even as an 11 gap to fourth place. This is just an insane team. They're running away with something. And I think Apprentices will want to catch up soon enough with a plus 42 goal difference and a plus 56. Ridiculous. But anyway, Mischief, they're on 13, holding out the third place spot. Neptunium even, find themselves on 11 wins, holding up 4th and 5th. Serene Yamato find themselves in that 6th place spot. Not even 50% win rate for any of the bottom 6, or bottom 7, but they are still holding up. And then Masai and Gel V will find themselves on 9 wins, 1 win outside the top 6. And then very close near the bottom, you have Oracles and Fearless Delta on 8, 2 wins apart. So as much as there might not be a scrap near the top, the bottom is definitely going to be something to watch out for.
Yeah, and one thing that definitely stands out is Disorder on a 92% win rate there. It's just insane. And now if we look here at the Ignis Conference, Buddha, how does it look here?
Well, Feather, despite obviously an unfortunate situation for their roster on the series, they still hold that top spot, 18 wins, but it's not safe and secure anymore. You'll have Pardas who are in second place with 18 for themselves as well, and only a 3-goal difference separating both teams apart, so definitely looking close for a matchup for a top dog fight there. But Eclipse, they will be in third place with a 6-2 week. They'll be 16-8, only a couple behind, and Kadaho will be in 4th as well with 15 for their own, and Impulse and Elves kind of around 5th and 6th position with 14 tied there. You talk about a gap in Glaciers, well, there's another one here as well. A 7-game gap between Elves and Crusaders, and obviously alongside Cowpole, Cadence, a 3-way tie after that 6th spot. For all of those 3 teams, they have to go big. And you got to think for Crusaders, if they didn't go 6-2, would see a team with 1 win at the bottom. So they definitely pulled that one out of the bag. So we've got a 3-way tie there. And down in 10th, we will have Orcus, who are 4-20. And I think they were 1-15 going into this week. So they did pick up a few games. We didn't see any results. I think they might have got 1 draw and that was it. But other than that, still looking a bit close for these teams to fight. But if these bottom 4 teams don't start getting results, we could maybe see play-ins be secured the earliest it could have been in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, the standings here for the top 6 are definitely really close to each other. And like you said, for Crusaders, Capelli, Canaans and Orcus, if they can't find any result, it's going to be very difficult. But now, onto the fixtures for next week. Kingsman, any interesting matchups happening in the Glaciers Conference?
Well, Mischief Apprentices, 2nd versus 3rd. I talked about the top 2 pulling away. And well, Apprentices might have to pull a little bit on this week. They play Mischief in 3rd and Disorder in 1st. Disorder, Apprentices. That is a game to look out for. It's on the 4th, which I believe is Sunday. Yeah, it is a Sunday game. So it'll be something that definitely determines the standings. Disorder's other game being against Messiah, a little bit weaker in some regard. I'm not going to say it's easy for any team because it's RSC. Anything can happen going into these games, but still a very tough week for Apprentice here and near the bottom. I talked about Fearless being on fire for their run. Can they keep that up as they play Neptunium in 4th and they play Serene in 6th? So there's going to be a massive fight for them. If they want to show they're a top 6 team, this is the week to do it after pulling a win and a draw back. But except for that, that's your top matchups.
And with that, we're moving to Ignis Conference. Buddha, what's going to happen there?
Well, before I get to that big one that, I mentioned in the result recap, it's actually happening. But today we have Eclipse and Crusaders. Pretty much, on paper, you probably favour Eclipse to take it. But for Crusaders, they're coming off a hot streak. So maybe they can pull something out the bag. We also will have Orcus playing Impulse today. Again, another matchup where realistically Impulse should win it. But with Orcus, they found 3 games last week, which was more than their total in the first few weeks. So maybe they're on track to do something to pull out a result. But the biggest one again here, Pardus versus Feather, the top 2 teams going at it. Obviously, Feather, probably a bit upset that they could have been more ahead, with that unfortunate loss. But this is definitely going to be a series for them to really maintain that top spot, and obviously for Pardus to take that top spot. And if you're Eclipse sitting in third, 2 games behind, you're kind of sitting there like, okay, those 2, on average, they should draw. If Eclipse can go big, they can take that spot, and they have a pretty good week to do that for themselves. So definitely a really good watch there for the top 3 to probably shift about or maybe stay the same. But for the other matchups, we'll see Elves go up against Kadaho as well. Only 1 game separates both of those teams, so it's definitely going to be a big matchup. It's pretty much just going to be to see, which team, is in that top pack of kind of the 3-way fight, or who's going to be at the bottom of it holding and gatekeeping that playing spot. But for your other teams down towards the bottom, we have Orcus going up against Sepakli. That's how Snows put it, but we'll go with that. That's actually a big game itself. Obviously, a 7-17 team with 1 victory against Orcus, who, it's just not looking good, but they're holding on. I'm surprised at Orcus, they're not giving up. They're still going at it.
Yeah, for them, definitely an interesting week. For Orcus, and especially, maybe they can finally bounce back. But that is the end here of Challenger. Let's move on to our next tier, as we're moving on towards Rival. And I think a lot of interesting matchups happened here. And Kingsman, I'm going to give it to you first again for the Glaciers Conference.
Well, the top dogs, Serene Meiji, found themselves in a real pickle this week. They got a 2-2 draw onto Yoruba, who are hovering around that 6th place spot, and managed to pick up 2 draws this week. And they lost to fellow High Flyers Journeyman, bringing them unwinnable this week after only winning up until this point. So big change for them there. But obviously, they weren't the only team. Mystics found 2 wins. No sweeps in the entire conference, which is very rare. Looking at Buddha, Ignis, it's quite the opposite. But teams finding a lot of 3-1s and a lot of draws. No team being able to perfect a perfect 4-0, with Mirage and Mystics being your only 2 teams to take 2 wins.
With that, like you said, no sweeps happening in the Glaciers Conference. Standings must be very interesting. But before we go there, first, Buddha, what happened in Ignis Conference?
What happened? Well, apparently a lot of domination, a lot of 4-0s. What's that? Five 4-0s on the board. We see 2 draws as well, so it's definitely a big week for a majority of these teams. But for teams that went all out and good for in their favour, we'll start off with Tizok. They got a 4-0 sweep of their own against Raiju, so a very good result for them. But they also continued that momentum with a 3-1 victory onto Sentinels as well, almost going for the 8-0 week, but they did not quite get it. They do drop 1 game. And another team that went 7-1 and did not grab the 8-0 will be Erebos as well. They got their 4-0 sweep onto Caligo, and they got their 3-1 victory onto Continuum. So for Erebos and Tizok, both going 7-1, definitely a very good week for both sides. And they couldn't clinch out the 8-0 week, but hey ho. This is what we love about RSC now. We're seeing less 8-0 weeks as we go season by season, which is just always great to see. They may be 4-0s, but hey, the individual games might have been close with OTs.
Yeah, we never know. Maybe if they have happened on stream, we could have figured out. But with that, the 5 sweeps on the Ignis Conference. But first, Glaciers Conference. Kingsman, how does the standings look?
Well, with a bit of drop in their form, Mystics will take the lead of the Glaciers Conference in 17 wins. But Serene will still find themselves second, the only non-movers in the conference. Journeymen, though, falling down into that 3rd spot. Mystics really took a leapfrog week. But then they're tied with Mirage, who found themselves 2 wins this week, only behind on goal difference. Uranium, though, move up to 5th on 13. And Yoruba stick with them on 13, but they move down with Anarchy on 12. There's a whole series gap between Fearless Charlie, who moved themselves up into 8th after a pretty solid week for them. And, well, Sanctum will move down into that 9th place spot, and Montbelliard will find themselves in that 7-win spot as well, in 10th.
And there may have not been any sweep in the Glacier Conference last week, but the standings have moved a lot. But now, 5 sweeps in Ignis Conference. Buddha, how do the standings look?
Oh, well, to start things off at the top, it's going to be Tizok with their big week. And obviously, as Snow did mention, it was actually an FF victory onto Raiju, so it wasn't as much of a deserved sweep, but hey, 4-0 is a 4-0 at the end of the day. It does keep them first place at 18 wins with a 3-game gap. In second will be Sentinels with 15, with only 2 victories. They've been drawing 3 of their series, so it just shows that you don't need to always be winning your series. If you can even hold out a draw over a loss, it can still put you somewhere in the standings. But in third will be Onka and Erebos as well with them. A 3-way tie there, 15 wins across all the teams. Definitely going to be looking to shake things up with their matchups. And then in 5th place, we will have Continuum with 13. No draws on the board, a straight split of 3 wins and 3 losses, but it's enough to keep them in the top 6 and positive. And Nightfall will be in 6th without a victory. They've not won a series this season yet with 4 draws to their name. So definitely holding on strong for now. 10 wins for themselves. And they're holding a positive goal diff with a negative, obviously, win-to-loss ratio. So that's somewhat impressive. But Norns will be in 7th with 10. And then Caligo, Raiju, and Ash all in a 3-way tie at the bottom with 8 wins to their name. They all have a victory of the series in their series. So they're all capable of taking games on teams and maybe, potentially winning them. It's just, can they get out of that little clunk of the bottom half and make something happen for Nightfall and Norns to really fight for those play-in spots?
Yeah, and maybe those results will come in week 4, as we're going to move on to the fixtures to see if any interesting matchups are going to be happening here for the top or the bottom of the table. And first, going to take a look at the Glacies Conference.
Well, I've talked about it, and there's one right tonight. You will have Mirage facing off Serene Meiji. 4th versus 2nd, Mirage on a bit of a comeback era, and Serene Meiji a bit of a slow week. So maybe we'll see a bit of movement for them. But near the bottom of the table, Fearless Charlie will be taking on Montbelliard. A bit of a mixed emotions in that. But one team that I think have quite the week on their hands is Sanctum near the bottom. They play Yoruba in 6th, which I think is the real test the waters of can they make top 6. And obviously they have Mystics tonight who will be looking to push forward, going 5-0-1 so far.
Yeah, a lot of interesting match happening, and like you said, already a couple happening tonight. And now let's take a look at Ignis Conference. Buddha, what matchups are happening this week?
Well, for tonight, there's only one, and it's going to be Erebos and Raiju. For Erebos, I'll say it's a big series to break that 3-way tie, but for Raiju, it's to pretty much break out of that 3-way tie themselves down at the bottom. Is to see, can they make something happen, make those other teams start to shake, put a bit of pressure on them. But other than that matchup for tonight, we have Tizok versus Onka. That's going to be 1st and 3rd. 3 games separate them, so if Onka can find a really good result there, it could really start to rattle things for the top side of the table, especially Sentinels are going to be sitting there watching that game to commence, as Sentinels will have to play Continuum themselves. That's a 2-game gap from 2nd to 5th. So for Sentinels here, it's definitely a big matchup if they want to kind of keep that top 3, a little bit of a gap towards those teams trying to creep in. Down the lower end, we'll have Ash up against Caligo. We talk about the 3-way tie at the bottom, where we've got 2 of the teams playing up against each other. So it's definitely going to be a big game if one of the teams can come out of that victorious. And we got a little bit of a mid-table fight as well with Nightfall versus Erebos. I see position-wise, it's 4th and 6th, but Nightfall 5 games behind Erebos. But they have 4 draws, so maybe you expect to Nightfall at least take a draw, and in their point of view, they're probably hoping to edge out a victory instead of becoming the new draw merchants, but in the rival tier.
Yeah, a lot of interesting matchups happening, not only at the bottom, but also in the mid tier of the table, like you said. And now let's move on as we're going higher and higher into the tiers. And next up is Elite. We're gonna take a look at the results for the last week. Kingsman, what happened?
Well, Fearless got a 4-0. They went 7-1 this week. They weren't the only 4-0 though. Temple also found themselves going 7-1. So I was going to say Villa's pushing on, but also Temple were looking to hold their lead at the top of the table. They weren't going to give anything away, obviously. Buddha carrying the Fearless Elite team as always. But Serene, they had a bit of a roster rebuild. They find themselves going 3-5, taking a win off Profits and getting swept by Anju. So very mixed week for them, with only 3 draws and 2 of them being held by Severance. After Deception last week, they had a flyover week. They do find themselves going negative. They were pushing towards that first place spot, but getting a loss and a draw will not favour them in this scenario.
No, it definitely does not, and I think the standings will tell the same thing. But now, Buddha, what happened in the Ignis conference?
Well, as always, I've got to start off with my dark horse, right, Kingsman? I just have to. Got to stick with them. Now, they did have a draw to their name. It was a 2-2 versus Velocity, which on paper is definitely a surprising result coming into this week. But obviously for Velocity, that is just props to them. But for Tigris, they start off that week with a draw. They don't drop a series just yet, but they get a 4-0 sweep onto Embry. So for them, they get a 6-2 week, just continuing that consistency for them. When they're not winning, they're still edging out those draws. They're still undefeated after that week. But the other team that you got to pick out, almost going 8-0, it's Kotal. They go 7-1 in this week. They get a 4-0 sweep onto Scorch, where on paper, yeah, you probably expect it. But hey ho, they got every single game. They didn't drop a single one, so that's what you got to give props to. And they also got a 3-1 victory onto Thanatos as well, which going into the week, you could say it was a pretty big matchup. Obviously, don't want to, spoil standings, but going into it, that's definitely a series for them, wanting to win. And other than that, obviously, we only see one other sweep. Actually, no, we don't. I literally just talked about both sweeps. But obviously, we got one more draw other than Tigris' one. We got Darkness versus Holder with a draw as well. But it's looking nice. It's looking tasty. It's looking saucy here in the Ignis Conference.
Yeah, and I think same as in the Glacier Conference, standings will tell the tale as well. As we're moving to the Glacier standings, Kingsman, I'm going to give it to you.
Well, Temple, they are in that first place spot. They are still unbeaten on a 5-1 record. There's 4-game gap between themselves and Fearless, who find themselves moving up to second, and Deception in third with 15, and a 3-game gap to the Risers of Saturnia. They go above Bladesmiths, tied on 12. Then Severance fit out the top 6 on 11. Then 10, 9, 8, 7. That is satisfying. You see Anju, Zulu, Serene, and the Prophets all still knocking on the door for Severance, so very close, with only 5 games separating 4th and 10th. So next week's really going to divide it.
Yeah, and you said that perfectly. Only 5 wins separating so much of the table. And now let's take a look at the Ignis Conference. Buddha, what can you tell?
Well, staying at the top, remaining at the top is going to be Tigris, of course. 19-5 with a hefty goal difference of plus 44. Definitely winning with a lot of goals to their name, not just by one. But in second place, it is going to be Holdra with 16 wins for themselves. And in third place, just a little bit behind them, it's Kotal with an even record of 2, 2, and 2. They are going to be 13-11 in that third place spot, but they're not comfortable. They got Carbo in fourth, right on the same amount of wins as them, but with definitely a lower goal difference in their department, so just edging out their games just by the slightest margin. But Vanguard will be in fifth with 1 victory to their name, just really emphasizing how much draws can really do for you for the standings. And overall, they'll be there on 11, alongside with Embry and Darkness will be on 11 wins for themselves in 6th and 7th. But Velocity in 8th with 10 wins, and Thanatos in 9th with 10 wins. And Scorch will be just slightly at the bottom with 6. But for anyone that questions, why is RSC 4-game series? Well, look at 3rd all the way down to 9th. That's why we love it. That's why we do it. A 3-game difference from 9th to 3rd. In this next week, you could literally see Thanatos in a playoff spot.
Yeah, and that's where we're going right now, to the fixtures for next week. Because like you said, it's only 3 wins separating there, same as the 5 wins separating in the Glaciers Conference. And now fixtures, Kingsman, any fixtures happening in the Glaciers Conference that can throw the entire table?
Yes, and I'm going to start near the bottom where you see Serena Zucchi playing Zulu. 8th versus 9th, obviously that very close gap to 6th. So it will really shift the table. But near the top, you see Temple taking on Deception, 1st versus 3rd. Will Temple build their lead of 5 games of the gap to playoffs? Or will Deception maybe pull it back, obviously, on that 3-2-1? But Profits, they have a very tough week to look at from the bottom. Obviously, coming off not having a win at all yet. They have Bladesmiths and Fearless, 2 unrelenting teams that are absolutely on a roll at the minute. But Temple also do have Severance, who have drawn 5 of their games and lost 1. Not winning yet, but they still hold that 6th place position, and they have a Temple this week, so that could really shift up the standings if there's another draw. And they also have Fearless, so 2 draws there will be very interesting, and seeing how everything moves.
So in Khaleesi's already a lot of matchups that can shift the entire table. And now let's take a look at Ignis if Buddha can tell us the same thing for that conference.
Well, for tonight, you got 3 series, and wait, you got Tigris playing both. They're like, you know what, let's get this over with. Let's see if we can hold number 1 straight away. They'll be playing Holdra and Vanguard. Tigris with a massive matchup for the same as Holdra here. Both sides, you know, they're going toe-to-toe.
Got a result for that one.
Oh, you got a result! Come on.
Yes, I do.
Us, baby.
Holdra have actually taken down Tigris 3-1. So Holdra
No way.
have taken Tigris to their first loss this week.
Damn, Tigris now do not remain undefeated. Holdra have taken them down, and I believe that'll take Holdra to 19, and Tigris will be on 20 with only a 1-game lead. But as the Holdra, they're going to have that head-to-head, so as long as they can get the results in, they'll be looking good. But we've got Velocity and Thanatos as well tonight. That's actually one to watch as well. That's 8th versus 9th. They're in a 2-way tie for 10 wins. So this is definitely, you know, a result that could really shift things. And we talked about how there's only a 3-game gap from 3rd to 9th. So a big victory from either side there tonight could really shake things up. And obviously Tigris, after now dropping their first series to Holdra, now they're going to be looking to bounce back against Vanguard. Not sure if they played that one before or if they're about to play that one probably in 10 minutes most likely. We'll see how they do. But we've got to talk about some other teams. Holdra, massive week. They've just got a victory onto Tigris, but they've got to play its KOTOR as well, who are in 3rd place, 13 and 11. After momentum of beating Tigris, you maybe hope they can find a victory there. If they can, it's going to be humongous for them. So it's definitely a series to watch there. But we've got to talk about teams, you know, that we don't really get to highlight a lot due to so much consistency from some of these teams. We are going to see Scorch, you know, looking to bounce themselves back into this season. We got them playing up against Velocity. Definitely a series to do so. But their other series is Carbo. Not going to be an easy one, but hey, upsets can happen. Anything can happen. So we'll see. And another one that I just have to point out as well before we pass off is Embry and Vanguard. They are tied in 5th and 6th with 11 wins each. A result there could really start to shift things, and maybe we'll see the gap tighten or maybe even widen a little bit.
Yeah, in both conferences, a lot of matchups happening that can shift everything, and definitely the result from Holdra and Tigris already in is huge. But now we're moving on to the Master tier. And we're going to look at the results first. Kingsman, what can you tell me?
Oh, sorry, I was having a drink. Well,
sorry.
The team at the top, they take their first draw. Dogon, they take a draw to Iovi, but they still remain unbeaten. And only 2 teams find 2 wins in Illusion and Messias. Illusion, they find 2 3-1s. And, well, Messias find a 4-0 and a 3-1 against Fearless. I mean, they're doing something right, but Fearless Alpha have had a complete change in their roster now, getting the 3-1 with their new roster. So it'd be interesting to see how they can perform with a new roster and how everything changed, updated. But this week, not so good for Phoenix. They find themselves going 1-7 to the Serene side and Dogon. Dogon obviously looking to push back after that draw, making sure they keep their lead at the top of the table, 6-2. They are still unbeaten, still the only team in the conference to be unbeaten. And, well, how long will they look to keep that going?
Yeah, a team that is unbeaten in the conference. Hopefully for them, they can pull it through till the end. But time will tell if they can actually do it. And now, Buddha, what happened in the Ignis conference?
Well, I know there's one player lurking. I can just see if he's waiting for me to mention his team. So I'm going to leave that team for a minute. We're going to start off with Droga. They got 2 victories. Actually, the only team to win both of their series in the week for the Ignis Conference. And obviously only 1 sweep as well, but we'll get to that. But starting off with Droga, it is going to be a 3-1 victory onto Gladiators. Obviously on paper, you pretty much expect it, but as I always say, anything can happen. It's how you turn up. So at least they got the victory. And they also got a 3-1 onto Infinity as well, which Infinity, obviously, you know what, I won't spoil anything for the standings, but either way, very good results for Droga. 6-2 week for themselves. Still haven't found a draw in the season because they're just edging out the victories with 3-1s. Now, the next team you got to mention. Now, the record, it's not 7-1 or 8-0, but it's still a massive week when you see the results. Transcend go 5-3. They get a 2-2 draw onto Montezuma just to start things off. Just ease out the league games. Just get warmed up. And then they give a team their first loss, and it's not just any team. It's Nox, the team at the top who have been pretty much dominating almost to a slight stance. They got a 3-1 victory onto Nox, and as Half just mentioned, with an elite sub, by the way. Just to boost their egos a little bit more. But for the side of Transcend, it's a massive week. 5-3. You take down the unbeaten team with a player from the lower tier. Definitely a big week for them. So well played to them. But got to talk about the 1 sweep as well. Hades got a 4-0 on to Leo. And for Leo, they just can't find anything back. In the beginning of league play, they were looking, they were looking strong, but they just fall this week. They lose 3-1 to Abyss, and also getting swept by Hades, almost going 0-8.
Yeah, and like you said, the first loss for Nox, and with that elite sub, it has to be mentioned, it's definitely a huge result. And then obviously Transcend themselves having a very solid week. But now let's take a look at the standings, and we're gonna start with Glacies first.
Well, Dogon, they are in first place still, as Dominion fall down, finding themselves their first loss in this week on 15. Ovi tie themselves up with Dominion on 15 as well, but Illusion climb with Messiahs to 13 with a 3 gap to Serene, Nara and Heck, who are in that 10th place, that 10-win spot. But 1 game behind is the Fearless Alpha roster, which is completely reinstalled. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do, and Haven tied as well. But then Phoenix, not so good. They find themselves on 8 wins near the bottom, so it'll be very interesting what this team can do.
Yeah, 8 wins at the bottom, but if you look at the standings, all the teams are still very, very close. But Dogon, like you already said during the results, they haven't lost yet. And now Buddha, how does the Ignis standings look?
Well, they find their first defeat, but it's not defeated in the standings. They will remain first for now. Nox in first with 17 wins, but there's not going to be a clear gap anymore. Well, not even clear, but just not as big as it is now. Only a 1-game advantage for Nox there. Droga will be in second after their big week. A pretty good goal difference for them as well. They're winning big and losing small when dropping games. 16 wins for them, but in third place with a 5-3 week, with a sub-series and a victory on the top dogs. It is going to be Transcend with 15, but in fourth is going to be Abyss. They'll be on 13 wins for themselves, but Fenrir, they are sniffing closely behind with 13 for themselves. Maybe look at the climb in, but looking at that goal difference, they are struggling when they do find those victories and not being able to hold that brick wall. So maybe something needs to be slightly fixed there if they want a chance to remain in these play-in spots, because I can tell you now, it is not safe with Montezuma in 6th with 10 for themselves. But hey, that's not the only team with 10 wins. You've got Hades and Infinity. They're going to be there on 10 wins as well. And this is when I wanted to talk about Infinity. I didn't want to spoil the standings. Infinity are definitely, I think, going to be one of those teams where you cannot expect a result on them if you're a top table team. I think it's got potential and players on that roster that can really bring out results. So Infinity are definitely going to be a little dark horse to climb the standings over in the weeks. But Gladiators, they'll be in 9th with 8 wins for themselves, alongside with Leo, who struggled with a 1-7 week. And I believe they got 2 wins. One in week 1 and 1 in week 2. So you go the next 2 weeks not even finding a draw, all losses. You definitely start to question what needs to be changed. What do we need to do? Because if they don't change something or improve anything, we will start to see them falling behind.
Yeah, and here again, a lot of the teams very close in the standings, as it's 8th on the final place, but 13th on top 4. But now, with that, let's move to the fixtures for the next week. Kingsman, what matchup did you pick?
Well, Dominion Heck has already gone ahead, and Dominion, they got a 4-0 sweep there. So Heck will be looking even rougher going towards that top 6, and Dominion temporarily take the lead of the Glacies Conference. They also play their other game against Dogon, which is a big game tonight. First versus second, Dominion get another win. They go very far clear of this Dominion roster, but near the bottom, Fearless Alpha will be playing Phoenix 10th versus 8th. And, well, they've got a pretty big week in store for them. Also, a team that's not found a win that has got a big week ahead of them will be Haven. They play Heck in 7th, who've just faced a sweep defeat. And a... Well, I've lost my notes. Oh, I've absolutely lost my notes. I'm having a nightmare. Oh, wait, no, they played Dominion and lost as well. I was talking about Haven. I've gone too far up. Right, Haven, they also play Messias in 5th place. Scuffed cast, indeed. And Dogon also will play Illusion, who are looking to push for those top 3 spots.
Yeah, and definitely, like you said, Dominion getting that sweep over Heck here at the start of the week is huge. And now looking at the rest of the week, how that will fold. But now, Buddha, what matchup did you pick in the Ignis Conference?
Well, for the couple for tonight, we'll have Draugr versus Hades. Definitely on paper, you're expecting Draugr to take that one, but Hades, they seem to be picking up form recently with a win and a draw in their last week, so maybe something can happen there. And I'm just waiting to see if the Kingsman's going to be like, oh, I have a result! Or has it not been played
No,
yet?
I do not. It's at 9 BST.
Okay. TBD for that one. But the other one for tonight is pretty influential for the standings. Infinity versus Abyss. I talk about that kind of, closed gap between kind of, around 4th down to 8th. Well, this is a game that can really kind of change that. You've got Abyss in 4th with 13, Infinity in 8th with 10. So just a victory for Infinity can really swift things apart. Or maybe Abyss can kind of say, little bro, hold out. You're staying out of play-ins. You belong down there. But for the following week, obviously you've got Transcend. As Half mentioned, I believe they're playing a sub-week, so they'll be playing Infinity for themselves as well. So for Infinity, it's a pretty big week for them. I think even if you go positive from Infinity's point of view, that is a good week for them. And for Leo, it's a team you got to look at with their struggles. They've got to play Fenrir, which is not going to be easy. It's a mid-table team who have drawn both their series as of recent. So maybe for Leo, maybe they can find something, but they will have to play Transcend themselves. And a team as well, Gladiators. Still not found a series win. The only team in the conference to not win a series. They'll be playing the sides of Montezuma and also Hades. So not an easy week, but if you look at the records, Montezuma and Hades both on 10 wins. Gladiators are on 8. So if Gladiators can go positive, next RSCast, the standings are going to look pretty interesting.
Yeah, then all fingers crossed that Gladiators can get that positive week. But with that, Master is done, and we're moving, for the first time actually, to the Premier standings, as they finally had their first week. And I think a lot of interesting results definitely happened here. And Kingsman, I'm going to give it to you first.
Well, Fearless continue in form like every other tier. They get swept by Symbiote 4-0 in their first week. Team Hosky Division, obviously, that was postponed due to tight schedules. So it's been moved back a week, so we haven't seen either team play yet. Team Stream, though, they pick up a draw with Visionary 2-2. Good start to the season for them. And Solace 2-2 with Feliday. Very interesting results there.
And Buddha, what about the Ignis Conference?
I wish I was a VK team here. I can't answer back. You can't just roast me without me defending myself. It's so unfair. Well, starting off in Ignis, we see no 4-0 sweeps, unlike the Fearless Esports side. But no sweeps across the board. That's what you love to see from the Premier tier. You've got Domination starting off first with a 3-1 victory onto Momentum. By looking at the goal difference, it was a pretty close series. Momentum only went a -3 goal difference, so the games were very, very close. So for Domination, they just closed out those individual games. Ox Gaming got a 2-2 onto Centurions. Literally equal goal difference there. So by a draw, they literally mean a draw. They pretty much drew the games in that fact, you might as well. But RQS Esports as well got a 3-1 victory onto Shaman Esports. A big result for them to kind of hold and see where they go in the standings. But again, no farming in the goal department. Only a 3-goal difference for them as well. And Kronos versus Fork, they got a 2-2 draw as well for themselves. And yeah, the great thing to see about these Premier games, we're not seeing those big games where, we see that hefty goal difference where a team's struggling. These games in the Premier tier, as expected, it's very close every individual game. It's just about who can close out those games to take the series.
And that's no, you said that perfectly. That's what we like to see. Premier being close as always. And now we had 1 week of results, so the first standings are in. Kingsman Gas, how do they look in Glacies?
Symbiote's been the only team to get a win. They see themselves in first place. Solace, Visionary, Team Serene and Feladay all get a draw, but due to goal difference, that was what will split the teams up. Team Hosky in Division, obviously Team Hosky, everyone knows them. They haven't played yet, but they're sure to be an exciting prospect. Division also haven't played, but Fearless Esports find themselves on the bottom. Definitely not unusual for this, but there you go. That's how they sit with an extra 4 games played.
And I'm just gonna throw it quickly to you so we can continue. What about Ignis?
Well, to start it off, RQS Esports, they're at the top with 3 wins, but I'd say tied at the top at this point. Domination there in second as well, both on 3 wins with the same goal difference as well. But RQS, they just scored more goals. They know how to shoot. Kronos in third place with 2 wins, alongside with 3 other teams. Ox Gaming, Centurions, and Forg all got their draws, obviously against each other, as they've only played 1 series. But in 7th, Shaman Esports will be on 1 victory there, and Momentum will be in 8th on 1 victory as well. And obviously, you only play 1 series a week, so it's very close. Literally, these standings could completely flip. They could shift about in the second week for the Premier tier.
Yes, and those are all the results for the Premier tier. So let's take a look at the fixtures for the next week. And Kingsman, I'm going to give it to you first.
Well, you see Division Symbiotes. We'll see Division first in action. They play Symbiotes, who are sweeping their first game. I expect that to be a very close game. 2 very good teams. Visionary Fearless, a draw and a losing team on the 30th as well. So we want to see if Visionary can hold strong or Fearless Esports can pull out a result finally. But Feladay and Team Hosky hasn't been scheduled. I believe it has been scheduled, but just not put through the graphics yet or the system we have out back. And neither has Solace Team Serene. I'm pretty sure I've seen them during the day get scheduled. But nothing on them yet.
And what about the matchups happening in the Ignis Conference, Buddha?
Well, to start it off, to kick it off, Kronos versus RQS Esports. You're not seeing, a winner versus a loser. You're seeing a winning team go against a team who drew. Neither of these sides have lost a series in their opening week. The question is, will Kronos, continue a drawing streak, or will they find a victory, or will we see one of these teams put a number 1 on that losing record? Either way, it's going to be a good series. We're going to see Forg versus Ox Gaming as well. Again, both of these sides have drawn in their first week, so both sides really going to be looking for a victory to kind of take that top half of the standings. But either way, a great matchup. We'll see Shaman Esports versus Domination as well. For Shaman Esports, obviously losing their first week, and obviously Domination winning in their first week. So Domination going to be looking to dominate this series and continue, and Shaman Esports going to be looking to bounce back. But in the final series for the Ignis Conference, we are going to see Centurions versus Momentum. Momentum obviously losing 3-1 in their first week, and Centurions with a 2-2. So we'll see what can happen, what can shake up, woulda, coulda for these teams and players. It's exciting for Premier because literally we don't know what to expect until they start commencing.
Yeah, and maybe we'll see a team dominate, and maybe we'll carry this momentum onto the franchise standings as we had every tier so far. And first, we're going to look at the bottom half. And Kingsman, I'm going to give it to you first.
Right, you see Ox sat on the bottom. They have 43 wins. Not an ideal start for Templar. They were near the top last season on 49. DSQ are in 18th with 50. And then Fearless Esports battle of the 2 RSC cast members in 17th, finally finding a way out of the bottom. Might Fades also were near the top last season with Green Phoenix. They're on 52 and 53. Luna and Azteca moving up, new franchise, pushing towards the top 10. Sanctuary, they drop with 59, and Visionary move up with 60. But remember the number 60 as we move into the top 10.
Well, talk about the top 10. There it is, number 10, Team Serene at 60. As you said, look out for the number. Well, there it is here in the top 10 as well. So looking really close. Shaman Esports in 9th with 62. Systema Solaris in 8th, going up with 64. One game ahead of them will be Fork, dropping in 7th with only one game difference, with Valkyrie Knight in 6th with 66. And then Symbiotes will be in 5th, rising up with 67 to the franchise name. And in 4th will be Momentum, dropping down a little bit onto 68 with a two-way tie onto Shadow Esports, up in 3rd place with that 68, just edging out on the goal difference. In the 2nd place, it's going to be Illusory up and there, looking good for their start of this season. 69, the magic number. But in 1st place, there's no colourful arrow because they remained 1st place. Panthera Esports, 79 wins. It's all close in between every position, but Panthera Esports with the biggest gap that we've seen between two teams in this top 20, a 10-game lead. Obviously, it's the whole franchise, so if you put it into perspective, it's not massive, but if they continue how they've been doing, and you just think they've got a master team down at the bottom. If that master team gets going, it's looking scary for the other franchises.
Yeah, it definitely does. And those were all the results for every tier of the franchise standings. A little bit of beautiful banter on the Fearless franchise, but, it's got to be there. But, Buddha, you got to keep one thing in mind, right? At least you have a team in Premier, Kingsman Gas doesn't, so...
Hold on, I do. Hold on. No, hold on. I do. This is unbelievable. I do have a team in Prem. Honestly.
See, there you go, friendly bet. But honestly, with that, we're going to move to the clip and fail of the week. At first, we're going to take a look at the clip of the week submissions. Let's just roll the tape. Man, what a lot of beautiful clips here and there from across all the tiers. Buddha, I'm gonna ask you first. Which one was just the most outstanding to you?
Oh, this is difficult. Normally there's one that you can kind of just instantly edge out to, but there's a good handful here. Deadly Dom, for the prospect here, it's a pretty clean goal. MAA7 with a nice double as well with the angle. Friday being Friday with the scoreboard as well. Can we talk about the scoreboard? I wanted to see the clip as Kingsman Adventure we were watching it.
Literally. Honestly, I was about to riot. I was literally like, I want to see this clip.
So close.
And it's just like, he's just like over the scoreboard. I'm like, all this tension, bro. It was a lovely little bump play, I can't lie.
But yeah, I mean, you got Sammy as well. All of them are great. All of them are great.
Alright, but if you had to pick one.
You know what? Just because I'm a Call of Duty player, MAA7. That's my tiebreaker.
Alright. That's your tiebreaker. Alright, Kingsman, what about you?
Enough. Well, this one really hasn't been mentioned, but I think Sinksy, as he goes on, used to go under, but Miliozy now taking the ball off the backboard, getting all the control, then getting the flip reset from basically backboard to backboard. I think that stood out. Except, if I'd seen Friday's clip, I think I might have voted for it. But Hypnos was too obsessed with the bloody scoreboard. to be able to see. He wanted to see if he was doing that. He wanted to see what his fancy team were getting. Honestly.
Okay, well, at least through the scoreboard I could see Friday's clip, and for me it's gonna be Friday's clip, because come on, it's he puts the ball on the wall and then he bumps someone out the way, gets bumped by his teammate back into the ball to just throw it over the last defender to make it roll in. As I think all three of us are casters, if you have to cast that, that's just a nightmare to cast, because you don't know what's happening. But looking at the poll, it does look like Millsy has won it. So let's run it all again. Let's see that beautiful clip of the week and all the other clips that sadly didn't claim it this week.
Lovely. Oh, wait. And what a beautiful clip that was from Millsy, winning clip of the week here in week number 3. And now we're gonna move on to the beautiful, the other beautiful thing that we have, because obviously we had clip of the week, but now fail of the week. And we do have 2 beautiful submissions, so let's quickly run them and see how big our RSC players failed last week. Alright, 2 beautiful clips, and the first thing I heard while we were running those clips is Kingsman gas. So, Kingsman, I'm gonna throw it to you. What were your thoughts?
Well, the first one is from my challenger team. And goddamn, if that's on our net, Ronan is not saving it like that. Jesus. The man's peaked on the wrong net. Wow. But yeah, quite unlucky. He tries to recover and he squishy saves it. He'll never do that again in his life. But as I said, literally while we were watching it, they're both clean clips. They could both probably make clip of the week. If Hunter or Velios had done that in clip of the week, it'd probably been on clip of the week. Very impressive own goals.
Yeah, true. Buddha, what do you think?
I'm just starting the question like, how do you play Rocket League at this point? You know, I mean, like I always say, when you score a nice own goal, just get in the editing software, switch the colors, boom, you got a clip for the montage. You know, just look at it that way. You know, but we do have a winner voted by the viewers. It is Avelios. So congratulations for failing. So congratulations for not. Yeah, it's a weird one to say. You know, congrats on winning on losing, pretty much. Yeah.
Let's just run him again. Let's just see that beautiful feel. Well, congratulations or my condolences to you, Avelios, for having that beautiful double touch and giving Shin all the credit for getting another goal. But with that, we had our clip of the week, we had our fail of the week. Now let's move on to the weekly award. first, we're gonna start in the prospect tier. And Kingsman Buddha, who wants to take it first?
You know what? I'll take prospect. I'll take it. MVP for this week. It's going to be George FC. My GOAT. 534.50 points per game. But your finisher... I don't know if I want to say the name. Because, you know what?
Specky?
Yeah, okay, we'll go with it. Specky. 1.75 goals per game. He's going to be your finisher from the newborn roster. But hey, another player from the roster shining out. It's going to be Don Cola, your striker. 71.43% shooting accuracy for him. And your playmaker from the limousine roster is going to be Man Raj with a 1.5 assists per game. Wolf there in the second. Just not quite reaching out for that award in first. But your saviour is going to be Robbo with 2.75 saves per game, holding like a brick wall. We see Georgia playing three times, almost on every award there as well. So for George, had a big week for his team.
4 times actually. He's only not in playmaker.
Well, and moving on to Challenger tier, you'll have Shiny as your MVP, and he will also be your finisher. 2 goals per game, tied with Sam Dusk for both of them. As Stiho will be your striker from the Momentum roster. And Liquid, another Panthera player, picking up the playmaker. He must be setting up Shiny very well. And Sir Pegasus will be your saviour with 2.75 saves per game.
Going up into the rival tier, your MVP to start things off, Pile of Dodge with 610.88 points per game. But your finisher is going to be Laney with 1.75 goals per game in a 3-way tie with Dan Durank and Sammy Kamoz. But your striker is going to be Chilsey with 100% shooting accuracy. Now the question is, was it one shot or was it more? We'll never know, but 100%. But your playmaker is going to be Aiko with a 1.13 assists per game, again with a 2-way tie with Cal, who takes second twice here, but third as well in Saviour. But your Saviour is going to be Pile of Dodge. Well, you want to know why he got so many points? Well, it might be something to do with 3.38 saves per game. He is not letting that ball go past him, unless Chilsey was shooting then. Oh, well, then maybe.
True, and well, moving on to Elite Halo. Under the new Team Serene roster, 545. He also picks up the finisher. Someone's having your fantasy team for sure. He goes 3 for 3. 4 for... No, it's going to be Hypnos. Taking away the run that he had. 1.38 assists per game with a Bondi close and Roll close second. But Halo picking up 3 out of the 5 awards. 2.25 goals per game. High shooting percentage. And a saviour with strength. Oh, and the thing has gone for me. Well, over to you, Buddha.
GG's go next. Well, for the Master tier, it is going to be Bowler for your MVP. 566.25 points per game. And your finisher, finally Fearless with something. It is going to be Static, the new signing to Fearless Alpha. 1.75 goals per game. But your striker, a previous champion, Peachy Boy. 57.89% shooting accuracy for him. But your playmaker is going to be Bowler again, coming up twice here for the award with 1.75 assists per game. A little 2-way tie there with, you know what, we'll leave the name. I can't pronounce it, but he FA subbed for me, so thank you for that. But your saviour is going to be Ruthie with 2.5 saves per game with another 2-way tie as well with Milne there coming in close. But Ruthie is the one to take it. That is your Master Players of the Week.
Well, moving on to Premier, it's the first week, and Rico will take your MVP, 645 points per game. Clean will be your finisher, 1.75 goals per game. Remember, they do only play one series, so stats are over one series. Trebula will be your striker with 60% shooting, and Oles will be your playmaker from the Fort Templar roster with 1.25 assists per game. And that might be why he has 645 points per game. He got 3.75 saves per game.
Oh, team of the week. You want to see what's the dream team? Maybe a little, inspector. I can't talk. You know what? We'll scrap that word. Anyway, moving on. Starting off in the prospect tier from the newborn roster, it is going to be Specky, a beautiful shattered gold explosion. Whoa, Kingsman. Whoa. Calm down, little bro. going up into the Challenger tier. It's going to be beeping sheep. We love a bit of sheep. A beautiful, beautiful gold explosion. No idea what that is, but it looks nice. From the Crusaders roster, representing for his team and actually the tier as well. And Angelo up from the Erebos roster after a great week for themselves. We'll see Angelo here on Team of the Week, a player that you'll recognize in the league. And Friday as well from It's Code Tool with a questionable scoreboard clip of the week. But he will be representing his team and tier from It's Code Tool. And going up into the Master tier from Messiahs, it's going to be Nuclear representing here for the Master tier for your Team of the Week. But finally, for the Premier tier, it's going to be Emil Vald. You know what? Just kick me off at this point. I can't say names.
Something like that.
No, we'll go with that. But from the Symbiotes roster, they got a 4-0 sweep to start their Premier season off. And, well, it gets them on the board for Team of the Week. If you're new to the Fantasy League and you kind of don't know what players to go for, well, Team of the Week, you've got the awards. It gives you some information of what players to pick for your fantasy team.
Yeah, and those were our weekly awards and the Team of the Week. And definitely, the one thing that stayed with me was one player, I think it was a rival, having 100% shooting, actually. We don't see it that much. But now, we had all our results, we had all our fixtures, we had all our standings, we had beautiful clips of the week, beautiful fails of the week, just the weekly awards. Kingsman Gas, Buddha, any final thoughts before we close down?
Well, obviously, we're heading into week 4. We're getting into juicy time now, where all teams are shown as their top 6 or shown as top 3. And, well, it's a time for you to push us along. So, if we've said anything this stream about your team, or you maybe didn't end up on the weekly awards like you'd have wanted, push harder. There's every still chance a teams can make it. I will bring up Disorder from last season. The rival team of Symbiotes. They were, I believe, last with about 6 wins, 7 wins of play-ins at this point. But they pulled it back to get second in their conference, almost getting first in the last week. So anything's possible if you keep your head high.
Yeah, always keep your head high I'm going to say from my point of view, if you're someone like me, you can't win a trophy, you can't, win as a franchise owner, get yourselves into the mini games. We've got Fantasy League and the predictions as well. So, if you're not as good on the field, but you're good with your mind, maybe building teams or predicting results, so make sure you get yourselves involved in that mini games. Obviously, you can go to the mini game info channel, see all about it, get yourselves in it. The fantasy team, the Fantasy League, it's all great stuff. You can make your rosters. Obviously, you got to build it within your team cap, 1 player from each franchise for every single tier. So it's really good stuff. It's great fun to do, something interactive without having to use your little thumbs on the joystick. It's something fun to do, and it's interesting to see who's got the mind but not the gameplay to back it up. But other than that, it's always been a great week. It's great to see these results come in, especially upsets as well. Look forward to the future matchups as well. Also, we've got quite a few going on tonight. Some have already obviously been reported in, but just best of luck to everyone playing. Also, if you're just around, just watching or just, on the bench like me, just watching your teams, give them all the support that they need. I'm sure you'll be a great addition to the team. But other than that, from me, it's just been great. I'll see you all next week. And Tavish, just take us away.
Well, obviously, you guys already said all the final words, but we can't leave without thanking everyone that works with us, all our sponsors. So obviously, massive thanks for Gamer Beat Cancer and Patera Esports for helping us run monthly tournaments. Gamers Apparel giving us beautiful merch, even the merch that I'm wearing right now. It's really comfy, I can tell you that much. Bad is helping with all the graphics, and then we have synthesizers on Brick and Brack. And obviously the biggest sponsor ever, Rule 1, making everything possible here on our side. So obviously massive shoutouts to all of them. Make sure to follow us on all the socials at RSC_EU to stay up to date with everything that's happening. But that's it here from us. Kingsman Gas, Buddha, thanks again for having me as your host. Always a pleasure being with you two. But for now, we're signing off. See you guys next week.
You fight for the win. It drains me all out and crushes me to the ground. I keep on fighting, cause it fuels flames within.